awakening is the result of many things. September 11th, 2001. It's also a result of the invasion of Iraq, spearheaded by George Bush and others in our country. And it's has to do with attempting to make something that would allow us a little bit more understanding of the world. That's how it began, I think. And then combined with that is the fact that in early 2006 we found out that Kronos was going to be playing a concert, coincidentally, on September 11th, 2006. And that concert was going to be held at the Herbst Theater. And the Herbst Theater, many people already know, but some don't, is where the United Nations Peace Charter was signed in the 1940s. And so when I found out about that, it seemed to me that something was required of us. And initially I didn't know what it was. I just had this feeling that we needed to mark that occasion, the 5th anniversary of that horrific event. We had to market it in a certain way. And so the next, nearly 8 months, I was involved in exploring a lot of music. And also at that time, I had been in touch with Michael Gordon. And Michael had told me that, well, first of all, his home is 2 or 3 blocks from where the World Trade Center stood. And his children were on their way to school when one of the planes struck one of the towers. And in the years since then, at the school, there had been recordings made by the teachers of remembrances and thoughts by the students. And so I heard about these recordings, and it just seemed to me that when you think about the history of the string quartet as a medium, you think about the late Beethoven quartets, and you think about Schubert, and you think of Black Angels, and Bartók's quartets, and Shostakovich, and Terry Riley, and Morton Feldman. You think about how internal a lot of this music is, and how it's music that almost is examining the way people feel and think. So it seemed to me that if Michael might be able to find a way of combining these children's voices into a piece for us, that we might have a centerpiece for our concert. Well, sometime in the spring of 2006, I heard that piece, and we began working on it for the first time. And it was very clear to me that we did have a central piece, and that we had all heard the sounds of so many different adults talking about that day, and so many observations, but rarely had we heard the voices of kids that had seen it. And so for me, there was something really poignant about this, and bringing that kind of testament into our music. And so I began to think about how to create a musical experience. And eventually it came to have 3 parts. And so part 1 for me is really, I would say it's kind of the world outside of what we normally think of as where the string quartet has been or comes from, really. And so there's music from Uzbekistan and from Iraq and from India and Iran. So far-flung places. And the idea of perhaps allowing the audience a chance to hear things they never thought they'd hear before from us or from, in a concert of string quartet music. So that's part 1. Part 2 is more the event. It's more the morning of September 11th. And it includes Michael's piece. It includes so some of it is very noisy in part 2. Some of it is kind of fiendish. And then when Michael's piece starts, there's the voice of this very young child, probably 3 or 4 years old. And for me, that's an amazing moment. And then his piece, it's very expansive, and it allows the listener a lot of time to just kind of remember and be with that event. And then we get to part 3. Now, part 3 is an attempt to give our audience some musical, it's almost like a dressing on a wound, or it's a balm, or it's something that really only music and maybe the touch of someone that you love a lot, or maybe something very gentle in your life. That's what we wanted to create for part 3. And as we were thinking over part 3, it occurred to us that it would be fantastic to have a children's choir. And so as I was thinking about the music, it occurred to me that what would be really wonderful is to end the concert with a wonderful children's choir actually listening to the very last piece. Well, we had just been to Russia, and I heard this amazing choir piece by Vladimir Martynov. It's called the Beatitudes. And so I explained the whole idea of the concert to Vladimir through a translator and asked him if he might be able to make a new version of the Beatitudes for our concert. And he did. And so the end of the concert, the kids choir will come out as we're playing a piece called Tusen Tankar, which means 1,000 thoughts. And so there's a certain point in Tusen Tankar when the assembled choir comes out and surrounds us. And then they sing with us a piece called Winter Was Hard that we recorded about 25 years ago. And then they remain on the stage, and Kronos gets to be enveloped by the audience and by the kids' choir, listening to Vladimir Martynov's The Beatitudes.